Lynn, what's the big difference between toys and hobbies?
Really, I'd say that when you have a hobby item, it's something that you build, put together yourself. You end up with something you can modify, you can change it up, you can take it apart and rebuild it.
And welcome back to Neon Fastique on this week's episode, part 2 of collecting vintage model kits. Yes, born in part to feedback from the first video I did covering this subject, and to quote, "Dude, you showcased those Star Wars kits but you didn't cover them," end quote. So I feel that I ought to cover those model kits, but with an added bonus. Yes, you've guessed it. 2 new additions to this particular collection. Firstly, completing a set, and second, a brand new release which has its roots with Aurora model kits from the early 1970s. So without further delay, let's get started. Okay, so we'll start with the AT-AT first. As seen in the movie The Empire Strikes Back, or also known as the All-Terrain Armoured Transport. Now, this particular model kit has been re-released many times throughout the decades through various modelling companies, and I'm happy to say has seen a re-release using this exact artwork through Disney as of 2020, and the only difference to the box is the inclusion of the Disney logo. Now, the model kit, once it's finished, stands at around 8 inches tall, and basically what you see on the front of the box is exactly what you get. So you get 1 AT-AT, 2 Snowspeeders and 2 Rebel gun turrets. Now, one of the flaws with this particular kit is posability. Now, I'm happy to say that that has been readdressed through the various re-releases and the re-release from Disney, but 2 of the 4 legs are of solid construction, so it does limit posability once you've completed the model. But apart from a few subtle differences in colour and additional information, the Airfix kit is exactly the same as the MPC kit. Now, this kit was re-released again in 1983, obviously for Return of the Jedi, but they did away with this artwork and just give you basically a photographic box. And obviously it's 1983, so Airfix, and I think it was only Airfix, also included a free double-sided Return of the Jedi poster, so that's something else to look out for whilst you're collecting these kits. But I think you'll agree, doesn't it look fantastic? Anyway, let's move on to the next 2. So here we have another vehicle that has seen many releases through various companies throughout the decades, that of Boba Fett's Slave One, as seen in The Empire Strikes Back. Now, the 2 kits that you see before you are original, so we have the MPC, which was released in 1982, and then again for the Western European market via Airfix from 1983. And this one does include the Return of the Jedi double-sided poster that I mentioned earlier. Now, the kit itself is really well detailed, does include a Han Solo in Carbonite and Boba Fett. That's a nice little addition to this kit. Now, with the Disney release of 2020, I'm happy to say that they actually used this box art, which is fantastic because I think this perfectly captures the scene from Bespin from Empire Strikes Back. But unfortunately, they did remove Boba Fett's Slave One and replaced it with Boba Fett's Starfighter, I think. But anyway, fantastic kit. Some skill level required, if I remember rightly, because there are parts of this that can get a little tricky, but that's all part of the modelling experience. But anyway, a fantastic representation of that scene from The Empire Strikes Back. Anyway, let's move on. So here we have 2 re-release kits from 1992 forming part of the Commemorative Edition collection. Now, most, although not all, of the Star Wars kits found themselves being released once again at model stockists, unleashed on a new generation to newfound success. So on my left we have Lord Vader as originally released in 1979 by MPC, and on my right the AT-ST Scout Walker or All-Terrain Scout Transport, originally released in 1984 and 1985, and you'll notice it's a snap fix kit, so no glue required. Now, both of these are very well detailed and readily available on the secondary market, and if you're concerned about being confused with regards actual release dates, either original or a commemorative, don't worry, the true date of manufacture is printed on the box. Anyway, apart from the fantastic box art, this is an impressive kit, stands at 11.5 inches tall, comes with a movable arm and a glow-in-the-dark lightsaber, which is pretty nifty for a kit like this. And I think that gimmick was passed over to Screaming's kits when they did their Darth Vader. And I must admit, although that's pretty cool, it does look kind of goofy until the late hours draw in, but nonetheless. And the Scout Walker, another impressive, well-detailed kit, no posability, but that's pretty standard. But overall, 2 fantastic re-releases from 1992. Now, if you remember earlier on, I said that I've managed to complete a set. Well, this is it. The Mark I television Dalek, as produced by Comet Miniatures from 1990. Isn't this gorgeous? Just look at that box art. Now, if you remember in my first video covering this subject, I showed you the Mark III movie Dalek, and I also stated that I only pick model kits up as and when I'm looking for comic books and vintage toys. But since sharing these model kits with you, it's kind of reawakened my interest, so I managed to track one of these down. Now, these can be really expensive, but if you just bide your time, you'll get lucky as I did. But a fantastic set, and I'm really glad that I've got the pair. Anyway, on to the newest release. And here it is. Released at the beginning of June this year, new from Atlantis Models, the Metaluna Mutant as seen in the movie, This Island Earth. The kit itself is 1/12 scale, comes complete with a base and extremely well detailed, featuring movable appendages. Now, back in the early 1970s, Aurora Models had a successful line under the banner of Monster Scenes, also featuring comic book heroes and even dinosaurs. So a decision was made to further their line of Monster Scene model kits with their science fiction scenes, featuring Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still, The Time Machine, Robbie the Robot, a Martian War Machine, and obviously the Metaluna Mutant. However, for whatever reason, the line never made it to retail. Various models of the Mutant have been produced over the years from various companies, but this is the first and hopefully not the last from that ill-fated lineup. Although this particular kit is a limited production run, it is still available from all good hobby shops, so if monsters is your thing, then this is definitely for you. And here we find ourselves at the end of yet another episode, but if famous monsters is something that you're interested in, then add this to your diary. The Fly from Monarch Models. This model kit has been in development hell for years, but I'm happy to say that it's finally happening. And a source has informed me that the model kit is now in production with an expected release date later this year. Yes! Anyway, as always, I hope you've enjoyed this episode and found it of interest. A big thank you to everyone for supporting this channel. Thank you for your time. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Oh, I got a live one here.